You mouth it, and then I will, like a lip sync, and then I'll stand over here.
Oh wait, what am I saying?
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. That's it, okay?
Okay.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel.
I'm giving you pose, contour nose. I'm giving you hits, I'm giving you life.
Did I win?
I think you did. And the crown goes to... Today's very special guest is Quanah Style.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My favorite subject.
Let's just talk about you.
I'm just a trans icon and recording artist who dabbles in the drags, and you know, I've done some acting and stuff like that, but I really just work in the entertainment industry and consider myself mainly a performer.
She's a headliner, okay?
Now give me life.
Okay, let's hype these tits up and talk, bitch.
Hype these tits up and talk. Talk to us about how you grew up.
I grew up in a very small, remote northern community. It was a reserve called Moberly Lake, and the nearest little shit town was like half an hour away that had like a Dixie Lee and an IGA.
Eek.
I grew up as a little boy. My family was always supportive of me to an extent, I think, but when I transitioned when I was around 15, and then there was like a learning curve because when somebody transitions, it's a transition not only that I was going through, but that my family had to go through as well. But I grew up going to powwows with my mom, so I always used to, there's guys dances and girls dances, and I always used to dance. My mom said before I could speak, I was always dancing the girls' dance, but then I had to dance grass. That was like the boys' dance. Yeah. And I remember when nobody was home, I used to put on my sister Niska's jingle dress, and I would like turn on powwow music and dance around for like so long, like just probably like a half an hour just dancing and feeding my oats and fantasy. But at that point, I was always very paranoid about getting caught because it wasn't something I was supposed to be doing, right? Yeah. So I remember like kind of hiding that and repressing some of my feelings, and I used to go to sweat lodge ceremonies every Sunday that my dad had. We didn't go to church. Both of my parents were raised by their grandparents, and they're both Cree, so they had a stronger upbringing with their language and the culture. You know, they had a stronger upbringing with their heritage, I think, than somebody from their generation would have, which they kind of passed down to me a little bit. So I remember praying at a young age that I would be put in the right body, like going to sweat lodge ceremonies and stuff like that.
Can you just quickly explain what a powwow is and what a sweat lodge is?
So a sweat lodge is, there's so many meanings behind everything, like with the sticks and their willows, and basically like a native church. You go to pray, we sing traditional ceremonial songs. There's 4 rounds, and you can go into a sweat for different reasons, but it's, long story short, it's like a church. And then a powwow is a celebration and a gathering. You know, it's a gathering of nations, of people from different tribes sometimes. And the dances each have their own. There's traditional, fancy, men have grass, chicken dance. There's so many different kinds. There's mainly 3 main ones. The dances, and they each have their own meaning and story and significance behind the dance in and of itself. So like the jingle dress is a healing dance. The grass dance is like when Indigenous people were nomadic back in the day, the grass dancers would go and dance and form this path for the trails for the people to go down and stuff. So it's very interesting. And so there's different beliefs and different parts and elements to it that signify different things for each dance. You know, there is a whole other world of powwow that, you know, people will travel from powwow to powwow. There's powwow families. You can tell a family by like their beadwork and stuff like that. So it's really interesting.
That's beautiful. And did you face a lot of adversity when you were in school? And
yeah, I remember I hated going to school because I was always teased and made fun of. And I remember like making myself sick so I could go home so I wouldn't have to deal with it. And luckily, I think from a young age, I learned how to have a very thick skin and how to use humor. I always had a personality, so I think that always protected me somewhat.
How did your family handle your queerness?
So I remember like getting in trouble for like always wearing my sister's clothes. Like I'd be the last one to leave, and I'd be like, this is just what I want to wear. And that was around like the time like Clueless was out. So I wanted to wear like high socks with a little plaid outfit. My dad was like, does this mean you're gay? And I was like, no, not at all.
Absolutely not that.
What? So yeah, I think like everybody always knew I was different. I always knew I was different, but when you're still finding yourself and growing into who you are, it's sometimes hard to articulate that into words at such a young age.
100%. Did you have any visible...
like family members?
Yeah, like any people to look up to that were gay?
In my own life, I had a gay auntie.
Yeah.
And I also had my Uncle David, who also went by Auntie Sandy. So I kind of knew that my family, like I knew my family was accepting of them, and I knew my mom was very close with my Uncle David, who I now refer to as Auntie Sandy. I think through that, like I just knew that my family was open and loving regardless.
Yeah.
But that didn't make coming out that much easier. You know, it's still a hard thing to
100%.
come out and just say, right?
Yeah. So you came out when you were...
I came out, I think I came out as maybe 13, 14, and then came out as trans when I was like 15, 16. It's a blurry timeline, but around that time, it was hard because of school when I was younger. So I like detransitioned because it was like just so hard on me, you know, being in school and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then I started seeing a specialist when I was about 15. I got diagnosed with gender identity disorder, and I had actually studied all of the HBIGDA standards of care for general practitioners dealing with trans patients. Wow. And I had done so much research on my own and read as many books as I could. And I was so young, but I knew what they were legally entitled to do for me and what the process sort of was. So I tried to educate myself as best as I could. And then realizing that it was basically up to the doctor. And then when I was 15, they were basically like, we think this is a phase. You should keep paying $120 a week until you're 18. Cash grab. That. And I remember being so I was heartbroken. I was like, this is the person that's supposed to get it and see me and help me. And I thought that I would like put my hand down and walk down this hallway and have help. And if I reached out, somebody would reach back. But it was a lot of closed doors.
That's hard. Especially like going through with it so much and finding that one person that is going to understand you and push you forward, and not having that happen, disappointment after disappointment, that's hard.
So I was devastated. I stayed in bed for like a week, and I was like, well, what do I do? Like I'm 15, and I felt like I was in a waiting room waiting to live my life fully, and you know, when I knew what I wanted and how to get there. So fuck that. I'm not taking no for an answer. I actually have a song called No for an Answer, and it's now available on iTunes. And
shameless plug.
Then I decided to give everything up, what I knew of my life then. And my mom lived in Edmonton, and I had a friend of a friend who had transitioned in Alberta and had an easier time than I was having. So I kind of just rolled the dice, and I was like, I'm going to Edmonton.
Wow.
Then actually what I started doing was volunteering at the Pride Center, because I was relentless, and I'm relentless in whatever I want. I go for what I want, you know? And I think that our dreams are meant to be lived, so they're meant to be lived, so chase your dreams, bitch. Like, don't let anybody get in your way, nothing stop you. Like, you go for it you want, and that's what I believe in.
Chase your dreams, bitch.
So I started volunteering at the Pride Center, and I started volunteering as a receptionist and for all of the trans walk-in groups that they had, so I could get intertwined with the network of people who were working out of the Pride Center. On their breaks, I would talk to like these street worker trans women, two-spirit people, and I would pick their brains, like, how long have you been on hormones? Who was your doctor? Like, blah, blah, blah. So I actually befriended a few of these girls through working there. And literally, I just started harassing them to call their doctors who weren't taking new patients. Wow. And then I found this one guy who was actually from the UK. He was a really old-ass man, right? And I just wouldn't leave him alone. I kept calling. They were like, we're not taking new patients. And then I befriended 3 of the girls who would come into the center. And then I had them have my back. And every appointment, they were asking if he would take me. I probably bugged him for about maybe 2-3 months. And then I got a call, and he was willing he was willing to take me. And then my first appointment is when I got my first prescription for hormones.
How did your parents handle you transitioning?
I feel like they actually both had a harder time at the time than I thought that they would have, because my Auntie Sandy, Uncle David came out to my mom, and I knew that their relationship was so close. So I always figured that she would immediately be understanding, and it took her quite a while to fully grasp the situation, and there was put a divide between us for a while. Same with my dad. It took him a while to, I think, grasp and fully understand what it meant. I don't even think I talked to my dad for almost maybe a year. Wow. Because I was like, if you can't be here for me how I need you to be here for me right now, then don't be here for me at all.
Yes.
My dad really made up for it a lot when there was this, when I actually got my funding for my surgery. It was kind of like, I think I just turned 18 and they were like, you can come in a week or you can come in like 3 months. And I was like, I'll go next week. So it was something that I think my family knew was coming, but when it happened, I think they were shocked because they're like, oh, this is happening like right now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like everybody wanted to come with me, or people were offering to come from my family for my surgeries in Montreal. I pushed kind of everybody away because I was like, this is something I'm doing on my own and I'm doing it for myself, and y'all weren't there for me. I was resentful that they weren't there for me how I wanted them to be there for me initially.
Was that hard doing it by yourself?
Yes, honey. Let me tell you about it. So what had happened was I get to Montreal, I get to visit this outpatient clinic and meet some of the girls, and you know, it was a really great program that they had there. The night before my surgery, they make you read like these things, and you have to sit and they watch you read it, and it basically says like, in case you die, you know, we're not gonna get in trouble, right? So when you read this, it's kind of like, oh, wow. And so I called my mom and I was trying to be very strong for her. And I was like, thank you for taking time off work and taking me to my appointments. And thank you for being here for me. And no matter what happens, like, I just love you. And this is what I need to do for myself. And she was like, okay, and I love you. And, you know, I could tell she was scared. Then I called my dad and I just started crying because I was trying to keep it together for my mom. I didn't want her to think that I was second guessing myself or anything like that. I just called my dad and I was crying and I was like, oh my God, I wish that I brought somebody with me. And he was like, you chose this. We would have been there for you. And I was like, shut up. That's not what I need to hear. Like, all I need you to tell me right now is that you love me and that everything's going to be okay. He said, I love you. Everything's going to be okay. So I go in for surgery and they gave me the drugs or whatever. And then apparently they like put my arms down. And I said that I had a special request. He's like, how are you feeling? I was like, good, I have a special request. I need you to make it extra large so I can fit at least 2 fists up there. And like, cause the drugs, they said like that when they like had to like put my arms on, like strap my arms down, and I started yelling I was the tranny Jesus. And like, he was like, you're the craziest person we've ever had. Once those drugs kicked in, you were just screaming, girl. And I was like, but I was happy, I was nice. He was like, yeah, you were really funny. Yeah. So that's like the last thing I remember that he reminded me of after the doctor, they got a kick out of me.
They had a good time.
And then who was there holding my hand when I woke up after my surgery?
Your dad.
My dad. He showed up. He took like the red eye. He was there and he was able to hold my hand and be there when I woke up. So, you know, even us not seeing eye to eye over a few years or whatever, that moment really meant so much to me, and it made up for so much. Even the little lost time we had or whatever, it just made up for so much. And he was so curious, you know, talking to the other girls, asking questions about their transitionings and trying to get understand more as he could. That was a really sweet moment, and that's like so we've special. Actually been a lot closer over these years, you know, like we confide in each other about what's going on in our lives. We ask each other's opinions for our careers and stuff like that. He's in the industry, so it's good to have a sounding board like him sometimes. So I'm really happy with where we're at now, and we're really close now. For me, it's quite beautiful because it felt like that was such a big moment in your life that brought your connection with him a lot closer and deeper, you know? And that's so special. You really had a tough run. Yes. You were relentless and got through. Yeah. It was definitely a hard transition, and like I said, I had to be very relentless with what I wanted, what I needed, you know, to be who I am, to live in my truth, to feel comfortable in my own skin. For sure. Which I think sometimes people take for granted, and so that's part of a struggle of being trans is within our identity and our journey. So I feel like I have a lot more appreciation now for just little things like waking up and being comfortable in my own skin, in my own body, you know? I love that. That's powerful. That is powerful. Speaking about being comfortable in your own skin, was there any major adversity that you faced in finding yourself and being unapologetically you? I feel like my confidence was probably something that I was always struggling with. I think I think I would get in my own way, in my own head. I remember, you know, now I can walk down the street and I don't have any social anxiety. I'm not worried how anybody's perceiving me or clocking me or anything like that. Whereas when I first transitioned, I had a hard time leaving my house because I had such anxiety of how people were perceiving me, and I thought so much about it. And I thought, you know, being in public settings, I would get anxiety because I would think people were looking at me weird or whispering about me or talking about me. And I think trans women or trans people do have this innate, it's like a sixth sense, like, you know, when somebody's talking about you or something like that. So I feel like maybe my senses were heightened to that, and which maybe made me a little more paranoid or sensitive to things like that. So I feel like sometimes that would have held me back because I wasn't as outgoing in those years as say I am now.
Yeah.
But I got there, so if there's one thing I could say to anybody watching who's younger or, you know, still figuring out who they are, is just to have confidence in yourself and have confidence that you will get there. And sometimes you just gotta fake it till you make it.
Amen to that. I think that's so hard on your mental health too, because you're constantly thinking about all these people talking about you, whether they are or not, but it's always in the back
in
of
your head,
mind. And that's so hard on a person that's just trying to just
Be themselves.
and navigate life that way. So that's hard. Let's talk about LGBTQ in the Indigenous community. Do you identify with Two-Spirit? There's a big debate on trans women performing drag. What are your thoughts on that? From your past, reflecting on everything you've been through, what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
If that energy is not contagious, I don't know what is, okay? Thank you, Quanah, for coming on here. I really appreciate you. You can check out all her music and other documentaries that she has already been on. All the links will be below. Thank you guys for joining us on this journey. I really appreciate you guys. Remember to leave comments, be nice, be kind, be empathetic. This is Quanah Stories. So join us next week as we dive back in.
You don't wanna miss it.
Ciao for now.